talk bill, we talk streets, we talk money. King Mr. TV.
Yo, it's your boy King Mr. right here on King Mr. TV, where we talk real, we talk streets, and we talk money. Hey, I got another one for y'all, man. This one right here, it's about that boy MJ. And nah, I ain't talking about Michael Jordan. I'm talking about the real one. I'm talking about the king of pop. I'm talking about the one your mama used to pass out about. That boy Michael Jackson. You dig? This one right here, man, say what happened after Michael Jackson went ahead and bought up the whole music industry. Do your homework on Michael Jackson. Taking care of that business, spending that money. You know, we like to talk money. And this one right here is a little money mixed with a little music. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Enough of me describing this shit. Let's just go ahead and get into it.
Michael Jackson on August 10th, 1985, Michael Jackson quietly signed a deal that would change his life and turn the music industry against him. For $47.5 million, he bought the ATV music publishing catalog, outbidding Paul McCartney.
$47 million is crazy to spend on like music catalogs and shit like that on an investment. Man, Michael was caked up. He was like, yo, this little 40 ain't nothing. Let me drop this little 40 and change the game.
Very man who had taught him the value of owning songs just a few years earlier. There were no headlines at first, no public outrage, just shock behind closed doors. Because for the first time in modern music history, a performer, not a label, not an executive, controlled the publishing rights to the most powerful song catalog in the world. And from that exact moment in 1985, Michael Jackson stopped being seen as a pop star and started being treated like a problem the industry needed to deal with. What followed was a chain reaction that would shape the rise and the slow collapse of his career. Years before the industry ever turned on him, Michael Jackson was quietly studying something most artists ignored: ownership. In 1981, while spending time with Paul McCartney, Michael listened as Paul casually explained how he'd begun buying up publishing rights after losing control of his own Beatles songs in the late 1960s. Paul talked openly about how publishing, not touring, not albums, was where the real long-term money lived. Michael didn't interrupt. He didn't argue. He absorbed everything. At the time, he was still transitioning from a former child star into a solo powerhouse, fresh off the wall and about to release Thriller. But that conversation planted something dangerous in his mind. The idea that artists didn't have to stay dependent on labels forever. Over the next few years, Michael began quietly educating himself. He met with lawyers, studied catalogs, and watched how publishing deals worked behind the scenes. While the industry saw him as a perfectionist performer obsessed with dance moves and visuals, he was building a completely different kind of strategy, one that had nothing to do with the stage. And by 1984, just as Thriller was cementing him as the biggest artist on the planet, Michael had already decided on his next move. He wasn't just going to dominate music charts. He was going to own the music itself. But the opportunity he was waiting for was closer than anyone realized. And when it appeared, it would put him on a collision course with the entire industry. The bid that broke an unwritten rule. By early 1985, the ATV music publishing catalog was officially on the market. The company, founded by Lou Grade, controlled over 4,000 songs, including most of the Lennon-McCartney catalog. Music that powered radio, film, television, and advertising worldwide. Industry insiders expected the catalog to end up with a major corporation or quietly return to Paul McCartney. What no one expected was Michael Jackson to step in as a serious buyer. At first,
nobody expected a black man to step up and do something like what he did. They thought he was just gonna shut up and dance, shut up and perform for us, monkey boy. That's what they thought was going on, man. But Michael had another plan for them niggas, man. Michael one-upped all of them. They didn't even see it coming. They underestimated our Michael, y'all. They underestimated him.
Executives dismissed the idea. Michael was seen as a performer, not an owner. Someone who made hits, not someone who controlled the assets behind them.
Right.
But behind closed doors, Michael's legal team was moving fast. He had secured financing through a consortium of banks with approval finalized in August 1985. When the final bids came in, Paul hesitated. Michael didn't. On August 10, 1985, Michael submitted $47.5 million, instantly outbidding Paul and every corporate rival in the room. The reaction was immediate and icy. Paul felt blindsided. To him, this wasn't just a lost business deal, it was a personal line crossed. Their friendship cooled almost overnight, and word spread quickly through the industry that Michael had broken an unspoken rule. You don't take something another legend believes is already his. From that moment on, Michael Jackson wasn't just rich or famous. He had disrupted the balance of power, and the industry would never look at him the same way again. In the weeks after August 1985,
Michael changed the game when he did that. Michael changed the game. I remember hearing some shit. I remember hearing some shit Paul McCartney say. He told Michael about the catalogs and shit like that. Michael said, I'm going to buy your catalog. I'm going to buy your catalog. Paul thought the nigga was playing. Straight like that. Paul thought the nigga was playing, man. Michael was not, didn't have no ounce of playing in him. It was not macaroni time. It was not macaroni time. It was Mike. It was macaroni time. You dig? That was lame. That was lame. I ain't gonna lie.
And so did the tension. When Paul McCartney finally addressed the situation privately, he made it clear that he felt hurt. He believed the catalog was something he would one day reclaim, especially after years of openly discussing publishing ownership with Michael Jackson. Michael didn't deny it. He didn't soften the blow. His response was calm, almost clinical. It's just business. That sentence spread quickly through industry circles. To executives, it confirmed something unsettling. Michael wasn't playing by the old rules anymore. He wasn't driven by loyalty, sentiment, or hierarchy. He had learned the system and then beaten it. By late 1985, the friendship between Michael and Paul had effectively collapsed. They were no longer calling each other. No collaborations followed. And while neither man attacked the other publicly, the silence said everything. Inside the industry, however, the reaction was far less quiet. Artists whispered, executives took notes. Labels began reassessing how much power Michael really had, and how dangerous it might become if he continued thinking like an owner instead of a performer. That moment marked a turning point. Michael Jackson had proven he could outthink the system. But what he didn't yet realize was that systems don't like being outsmarted, and they always push back. Power came with a price.
You know what they say, man. The house always wins. And in the music industry, it's like, that's the house. You just somebody up in there pulling the slots in the fucking casino room. You might hit it, you might not. But at the end of the day, the house always wins. But Michael flipped the script on him. He got his bag and then went back and bought ownership. It's crazy.
1986, the reality behind the victory started to surface. Owning the ATV catalog made Michael powerful on paper, but it also came with serious financial pressure. The $47.5 million purchase wasn't paid outright. It was financed through heavy borrowing, with banks expecting long-term returns from licensing and publishing revenue. At the same time, Michael's spending was accelerating. Neverland Ranch, purchased in 1988, required constant upkeep. Private jets, security, global touring logistics, and an increasingly isolated lifestyle all added to the strain. The catalog generated massive income, but not always fast enough to match the cash flowing out. Industry critics quietly began reframing the story. What was once described as a genius move started being whispered about as reckless. Executives argued that a pop star had overextended himself, that no artist should hold assets this large without corporate insulation. The same people who once underestimated him now watch closely, waiting for signs of weakness.
It sounded like they was waiting to make an example out of him, to show other artists to not make a move like this. That's what it sounded like. They was waiting to make an example out of Michael.
By the late 1980s, Michael wasn't just an owner, he was leveraged, and leverage cuts both ways. Because the more valuable the catalog became, the more eyes were on it, and the more pressure began building around him. The asset that made him untouchable. By the early 1990s, the narrative completely flipped. What critics once called reckless was now impossible to ignore. The ATV catalog was generating tens of millions of dollars a year, fueled by constant licensing, film placements, reissues, and global radio play. Songs written decades earlier were outperforming modern hits in pure reliability.
Wow, that's
For Michael
crazy.
Jackson, this changed everything. While album sales could fluctuate and tours could end, publishing never slept. Every commercial, every movie sync, every re-release quietly strengthened his position.
Why they keep showing
By
Eminem?
1991, the catalog was already valued far beyond what he had paid, some estimates placing it near $1 billion within a decade. But this level of control came with consequences. Labels resented the fact that Michael didn't need them the way other artists did. He could afford to delay releases, he could negotiate harder, he could walk away. That independence made executives deeply uncomfortable, especially at a time when record companies were used to absolute dominance. Behind closed doors, conversations shifted. Michael wasn't being discussed as the biggest artist alive anymore. He was being discussed as a
As the biggest
financial
problem.
force that couldn't be controlled. And that's when Sony made its move. Sony's entrance and the shift in control. In 1995, the balance of power quietly changed. Sony Music Entertainment entered a landmark deal with Michael Jackson, merging his ATV catalog with Sony's publishing arm to form Sony/ATV Music Publishing. On paper, it looked like a masterstroke. Michael received roughly $95 million in cash, reduced some of his debt, and retained 50% ownership of the most valuable music catalog in the world. But that partnership came with strings. For the first time since 1985, Michael no longer had full control. Sony now had equal voting power, influence over strategy, and deep corporate leverage. Decisions that once moved quickly became layered with approvals. And Michael, who had built his empire on independence, began feeling boxed in by the very company that was supposed to be his partner.
Yeah.
By the late 1990s,
They
tensions were
played some
visible.
funny. They played some funny games right there, man. It sounded like they knew Mike was in a bind. You know what I'm saying? It swooped in with the cash money. It ended up getting some leverage back on their side. You know what I'm saying?
Michael believes Sony saw him less as a creative force and more as an obstacle standing between them and total ownership of the catalog.
Yeah.
He felt pressure, not just financially, but strategically. In his mind, the catalog had gone from being his shield to being his bargaining chip. And as his relationship with Sony worsened, Michael became convinced the industry wasn't just watching him anymore. It was waiting for him to slip. By 2001, the cracks were impossible to hide. Michael Jackson released Invincible under Sony Music Entertainment, and despite debuting at #1, Michael felt something was wrong. Promotion slowed. Singles underperformed compared to expectations. Budgets were questioned. To Michael, it felt deliberate.
Yeah.
Privately, he became convinced
It
Sony
probably
wanted one
was,
thing:
for sure. It
his
probably
50%
was.
share of Sony/ATV. The catalog had become too valuable, and Michael believed the fastest way for Sony to gain control was to weaken him, financially and publicly. By 2002, he went public, accusing Sony executives of sabotaging his career and refusing to properly support his releases. That moment was seismic. No artist of Michael's stature had ever openly challenged a major label like that. Executives closed ranks. Industry allies went silent. Media coverage shifted tone. The narrative quietly flipped from powerful owner to difficult artist. From that point on, Michael wasn't fighting just a label. He was fighting an entire system that no longer wanted him in control. And the pressure that followed would define the
Man,
final
it's crazy
chapter of his life.
how, you know, like that man said, systems. It's crazy that all these different systems is what's in control of shit. And if you go against that, they got the power to shut your whole shit down. You know what I'm saying? It's always a system in control of the shit. Do your homework on there. Always be in a fucking system.
life. When Michael Jackson died in June 2009, the battle over his legacy began almost immediately. At the time of his death, Michael still owned 50% of Sony/ATV, an asset now valued at several billion dollars. What he had spent decades protecting instantly became the most contested part of his estate. In the years that followed, lawyers, executives, and corporate interests moved fast. Michael's estate faced mounting pressure, legal costs, debt obligations,
Right.
and the need for financial stability. In 2016, Sony finally achieved what Michael had long feared. The company bought the estate's remaining 50% stake for approximately $750 million.
They finally got it.
Giving Sony Music Entertainment full control of the catalog. To many fans, it felt like the industry had waited him out. Critics argued that Michael's vision had ultimately been undone, not through talent or competition, but through time, leverage, and corporate patience. Others pointed out the irony. The catalog that once made him untouchable became the very thing the industry claimed in the end. And yet, the truth is more complicated. Michael Jackson changed the rules forever. Before 1985, artists didn't think this way. After him, they had no choice. Even in losing control, he exposed how power really works in music, and why the system reacted so aggressively the moment he dared to own it.
Right.
Because the night Michael bought the ATV catalog wasn't just the start of a business deal. It was the moment the industry realized one of their biggest stars had stopped playing their game. The rise, the fall, and the cost of defiance. Looking back, Michael Jackson's 1985 purchase didn't just elevate him, it isolated him.
Yeah.
The catalog made him richer,
I mean, they still talk about
it.
They still talk about it to this day, how big this move was, and you know what I'm saying, how these motherfuckers try to take him down after that. I mean, you can study his whole history of his career. You can see how everything happened. Like, you could literally see, right when this man made this move, things started changing a little bit for him. People started not fucking with him and things like that. You can, do your homework on Michael's life, because he is one of the one people from that era where everything was public, everything was recorded, everything was filmed. You know what I'm saying? So you could actually end with this YouTube, man. You could just sit back there and you could go a whole day doing your homework on Michael Jackson.
Than any artist before him, but it also placed a target on his back. From the late 1980s onward, criticism around his finances, his control issues, and his unusual business decisions grew louder, especially from industry insiders who quietly benefited when artists stayed dependent. The same move once praised as visionary was later reframed as the beginning of his decline. Debt was used as a talking point. His spending habits were exaggerated. His business instincts were questioned. And as controversies mounted in the 1990s and 2000s, the industry no longer rushed to defend him the way it once had. The protection was gone. In the end...
That's crazy, man. Hey, RIP to the great one, man, Michael Jackson. Hey, that Michael Jackson movie is coming out soon, man. Y'all make sure y'all go and see that. I'm definitely going to be in that bitch. I'll probably watch it 2-3 times if it's good, man. I love Michael Jackson. I actually been out there to Gary, seen his house, the whole shit, man. So shout out to Michael Jackson, the whole fam. Shout out to all the Michael Jackson fans out there, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. It's your boy King Mr. Man. Hey, that was another one, and I'm out.